You know that scene in The Hunchback of Notre Dame where Quasimodo rescues Esmeralda and carries her into the church calling for sanctuary? That's a real thing. Even in countries with alleged separation of church and state, law enforcement is often reluctant to arrest people who seek sanctuary in houses of worship. Tragically, this crucial plot point from a novel written in 1831 is super relevant today for dozens of undocumented immigrants. One such person is a Guatemalan mother of 3 U.S.-born children who, in order to keep her family together, sought protection from ICE in a New York City church. Her story is the subject of a new documentary called Sanctuary, which will be screening at the 22nd Brooklyn Film Festival, currently underway. We're happy this brings the festival's founder, Marco Ursino, to the studio to talk about some of this year's themes. Welcome to 112BK. And we also have the director of Sanctuary, Andrea Cordoba. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So maybe I'll start with you. Can you tell us a little bit more about the film? How did you find the subject, and what was it like filming with this mother?
Yeah, definitely. So Sanctuary was my thesis project for my master's in documentary film, and I'm originally from Mexico. And when President Trump got elected, I was finding stories, immigrant stories in New York City. And so I started filming with the New Sanctuary Coalition in New York, and I heard about this case, Amanda, and they told me about it the day she was going to make public her case, and she moved out of Long Island and into the church in Washington Heights. And so I went there, and I started filming with her, and it became a 2-year-long project. And so Amanda had been in New York for 12 years, and under President Trump's administration, they asked her to leave. They told her to buy a one-way ticket back to Guatemala and leave her with or without her 3 U.S.-born children. So she sought help from this organization, and they offered her sanctuary in this Washington Heights church. So on August 17th of 2017, she went into this church without knowing when she would be able to walk out again. And she was in there for a little over a year without being able to step outside.
And were her children living with her in the church?
Yeah, they were. So she has 3 young American citizens' children. The youngest one was 2 when they moved into the church, and the oldest one was 9. And they lived with their mother in the church in a tiny space. And yeah.
And so the children were able to come and go, visit their father, go to school. But Amanda was confined to the 4 walls of this church in Washington Heights.
Exactly. So what I tried to do in the film is show how this sanctuary, the space that they provided for her, and the security from deportation kind of becomes her prison. And like, she went from being an undocumented immigrant in the streets of New York and not knowing if she could be picked up by ICE to making her case very public, but being restrained and confined to these 4 walls of a church. And so it becomes kind of a prison. And so it is a sanctuary. Like, she was not detained or deported or sent back to Guatemala, but she is now forced to live inside of this church.
Right. And Marco, why did you decide to program this film?
Because issues like that, like this, are overlooked. And because we live in a period that is particularly critical. We just want a place where intelligent people can gather. The gathering is the theme of this year's festival, and confront each other. And although it lasts only for 10 days, I hope in 10 days we can achieve something. The more we will be able to share, and the more we will be able to be active after the festival to make a difference.
So New York is, of course, a sanctuary city, and we've been hearing a lot about sanctuary cities and sanctuary states post-election of Donald Trump. But maybe, Andrea, can you explain to me a little bit about the limitations of being a sanctuary city and why there is still a need for places of private sanctuary like this church?
So I think it's a very tricky question about what really a sanctuary city means. There's a lot of different movements in the city that are going on, and one of them is this idea of sanctuary neighborhoods. And so it's a network of people that are there to support each other and to offer sanctuary spaces or safe spaces for the undocumented members of our community that are going through this fear. And I think for the church specifically, it's like, as you mentioned, the ICE considers sanctuary a sensitive location, and so they don't go in and do arrests. But actually, that's under the sensitive location premise that ICE follows, and that includes hospitals, courts, schools, and places of worship. And we've seen the government going into schools, courts, and hospitals, and for some reason, churches are the only ones that are still kind of, they still respect that. So it's important to have these spaces, and yeah.
Right. Maybe now would be a good time to play a clip from the film.
Amanda is not hiding. Amanda has taken sanctuary and is seeking the justice that has been denied.
Amanda is going to be sent back to a country she left 14 years ago with 3 children who are U.S. citizens. What about their rights to have a mother? What about their rights to maintain a united family? We're not thinking about those rights.
Some of you that, I don't know why they're always asking me about the legality of this. Let me tell you something. Everything Hitler did was legal. And during slavery, everything what happened in this country was legal. Something can be legal, but immoral. That's what we bring here. We're gonna change, we're gonna challenge immorality.
Andrea, what are we seeing in this scene here?
So this specific clip from the film is a press conference that the leaders of the protest movement held the day that they announced that Amanda was taking sanctuary. So they go down to the Federal Plaza building and submit the petition for Amanda to reopen her case, and because she never had a day in court. So she can't leave the church to submit the paperwork herself because she would be arrested. So the priest Juan Carlos Ruiz, Assemblywoman Carmen de la Rosa, and priest Luis Barrios give this conference and speak for her.
Marco, you mentioned the theme of this year is gathering. What are some of the other issues, aside from immigration, that the films that you've programmed grapple with?
But there is also a number of fun films. I mean, it's not all...
Not just a downer, Brooklyn Film Festival.
No, absolutely not. This year we have tried to empower women. And women as one aspect of society, you know, like there are many others that are persecuted. And the problem that Andrea brought up is not just a U.S. problem. It's the world that is really moving right, and is the world that is not respecting people that are moving from their country to, you know, find a better life for themselves. This is unfortunately, it's happening. Climate is changing, populations are moving, and that's why the right wing takes over, because they promise people safety, security from these bad people. They are coming and invading us. So it's not really a U.S. problem. And the sanctuary is a beautiful idea, but I think it's just a matter of time, because eventually it will be all the same, unless we do something about it. We wanted this year's festival to feel like a movement. It's about taking a position, again, also in a fun way.
Right. A fun but firm position.
Correct.
So this film takes place mostly in Washington Heights, right?
Correct.
But this is a nationwide phenomenon. I read that over 500 undocumented immigrants have sought sanctuary in churches, I believe as of 2018. Do you know if anybody, since this is a Brooklyn-specific festival and we are a Brooklyn show, do you know if anybody has sought sanctuary in Brooklyn specifically?
No, I don't think so, and not publicly at least. I think there's the difference between seeking public and private. The idea was the more media, the better it's going to be, because it's going to be harder for them to send you back to your country. And I think there's been kind of a change in that, because 47 people took public sanctuary in 2017, And out of those 47 people, only 9 got kind of like any sort of like outcome out of any response from the government, basically. So I think there has been this change, and there's a lot of people like that still need to seek sanctuary, but they're doing so in a private way.
Maybe we can talk about the specifics of the festival.
The festival is international, and therefore we were able this year to put together 133 films from 35 countries. We selected the films out of 2,659 submissions from 110 countries, which is a record. And we are going to be using 7 Brooklyn venues, mostly in the north side of Brooklyn, in 5 Brooklyn neighborhoods, so Dumbo, Williamsburg, Greenpoint, Bushwick, in downtown Brooklyn with the Alamo Theater. The main 2 theaters are White Hotel in Williamsburg and Windmill Studios in Greenpoint. Those are the 2 venues that play all the films. We have other 5 venues that will, play movies as well.
And it opens on May 31st and runs for 10 days.
May 31st, 10 days through June 9. On June 9, there's going to be an award ceremony. We're going to give award and prizes. And 90% of the filmmakers travel with their film. So it's not just an opportunity to see a good movie, but also to meet the people behind the movies. So I strongly recommend it.
And if people want to see Sanctuary, when is that film playing?
They should come check it out. It's going to be playing Saturday, June 8th.
And that's the world premiere?
That's the world premiere. And then it's going to have its second screening the following day, Sunday 9th, at the Windmill Studios.
Great. Marco, Andrea, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.